Viewer discretion is strongly advised. The following is for entertainment and educational purposes only. It was day 13 of the federal trial against Sean "Diddy" Combs when the courtroom doors opened to a face no one expected. Adam Sandler. The beloved comedian known for his goofy charm and iconic roles wasn't here to make anyone laugh. He was here to tell the truth. And what he said silenced the room. With a trembling voice, Sandler testified that Diddy once made him shower beside him, forced him to nap shirtless in the same bed, and coerced him into bizarre rituals that left him feeling humiliated and broken. What began as a close friendship, Sandler claimed, became a living nightmare. And now, for the first time, he was speaking out, no longer as a buddy in the Hollywood circle, but as a witness. Adam Sandler's voice grew quiet as he recounted what would become the first in a series of disturbing experiences with Sean "Diddy" Combs. The courtroom leaned in as he described the night that turned everything upside down, a night he would replay in his head for years. "I didn't want to go," Sandler admitted. "I was already feeling weird about the trip, but I didn't want to be rude. Diddy had flown me out. He kept calling it a brotherhood weekend. I thought maybe I was overthinking it." That night, after dinner, Diddy took Sandler on a tour of his sprawling Miami mansion. Music played low through the house, incense burned in every room, and the lights were dimmed to a golden hue. It was like stepping into a dream, or a trap, Sandler said. Eventually, they stopped outside a large door. Diddy looked Sandler in the eyes and said, "Let's wash off the day, cleanse the bad vibes." The door opened to a massive marble steam room and shower. Sandler hesitated. It was luxurious. It looked like something out of a spa in Dubai, but I didn't want to go in there. Not with him. Diddy stepped in first, removing his robe and standing beneath the stream of hot water. He turned to Sandler. "Come on, man. We boys, brothers. This is what kings do." According to Sandler, the pressure was subtle but suffocating. He made it sound like it was a bonding thing, like if I didn't go in, I was disrespecting him. Reluctantly, Sandler stepped inside. "I left my boxers on," he said. "I told him I was just rinsing off." But Diddy wasn't having it. He reached over and pulled at the waistband, laughing, saying, "Don't be shy. This ain't Hollywood. This is real life." Sandler pulled away. "I remember feeling small, like I couldn't say no without ruining everything." The next few minutes were a blur. Sandler tried to keep conversation light, focusing on the shower tiles, the ceiling, anything but Diddy. But then, out of nowhere, Diddy leaned in close and whispered something that still haunts Sandler to this day. He said, "You think I let you in my circle just to make jokes?" Sandler paused. It felt like a threat, but also like a confession. After that night, Sandler didn't sleep. He spent the rest of the weekend avoiding Diddy, pretending to be sick, making excuses to stay in his guest room. But he couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted between them. The line between friend and predator had blurred, and Sandler wasn't sure which side Diddy stood on anymore. "I left Miami feeling dirty," he told the court, "and it wasn't because of the shower." Adam Sandler continued, his voice trembling now with a mix of disbelief and pain. He looked out over the courtroom and confessed that, even after the bizarre shower incident, he didn't immediately sever ties with Diddy. "I made excuses for him," he said. "I told myself, that's just how he is. He's intense. He's different. But the truth is, I was in denial, because I didn't want to believe my friend was capable of something darker." The second incident came just a few weeks later, back in Los Angeles. Diddy had invited Adam to what he described as a casual hangout. A low-key recharge day, he called it. He said we'd just watch some movies, maybe write some skits, just like old times, Adam explained. So I showed up. The house was quiet, almost too quiet. No assistants, no entourage, just Diddy in silk pajamas and a remote in his hand. He welcomed me in like nothing weird had ever happened, Adam said. That was his power. He made you question your own discomfort. They watched a movie, a comedy, one they had both loved as kids. For a moment, it felt normal, familiar. But then, Diddy paused the film, turned to Sandler and said, "You look tired. Come nap with me, bro. Don't fight it. Just rest." Adam laughed nervously, unsure if it was a joke. But Diddy wasn't laughing. He stood up, walked toward the bedroom, and looked back like he expected me to follow. Against every instinct, Sandler followed. I didn't want to make it weird. I thought if I played along, nothing would happen. In the bedroom, Diddy climbed into a massive California king bed and patted the space beside him. Adam sat on the edge, stiff and silent. He said, "You don't have to do anything. Just close your eyes. Trust me." The silence stretched. The room felt smaller by the second. Then Diddy spoke again. He said, "You're mine now, Sandy. Always have been." I remember those exact words, Adam said, his throat tightening. It wasn't what he said. It was how he said it. Calm, confident, like it was the most natural thing in the world. Adam laid there, frozen. I kept my eyes open. I didn't move. I just waited for it to be over. That nap was the longest hour of my life. When he finally got up, Adam made an excuse and left the house. I got in my car and cried the whole way home, he told the court, because I knew this wasn't friendship. This was control. And still, he didn't tell anyone. Not yet. Because how do you tell the world that the man who helped launch your crossover music video, who once called you his comedy soulmate, was also the man who made you afraid to close your eyes? I thought I could handle it, Adam said. But I didn't know that was just the beginning. Adam Sandler stared down at the courtroom floor, his voice low now, every word a burden. What happened next, he said, was the moment everything inside me broke. He explained that despite the increasingly disturbing behavior, Diddy continued to act like nothing was wrong. He'd text Adam funny memes, send lavish gifts, and drop by unannounced with stories about Hollywood projects. It was like he was trying to overwrite the past, convince me I imagined it. But the third incident, what Sandler called the breaking point, happened during a private industry retreat in Aspen. It was supposed to be a ski weekend for creatives, he said. Writers, producers, artists, some of the best people in the business. Sandler had only agreed to go because it was public, organized, and crowded. I thought I'd be safe. I thought he wouldn't try anything with all those people around. But Diddy had reserved a private lodge a few miles from the main resort. He told me we'd ride snowmobiles up to it, just us. A quick escape from the noise. Sandler, against his better judgment, agreed. When we got there, it was just him, me, and a fire burning in this huge stone fireplace. There was a camera set up on a tripod. I assumed he was vlogging or working on some weird art project. But what happened next turned Sandler's stomach. Diddy walked to a nearby dresser, pulled out a pair of silk shorts and a robe, and tossed them to Adam. "Put this on," he said. Adam froze. I told him I was fine in what I was wearing, but he insisted. He said, "You're in my space now. This is how we do it." He pressured. He joked. He made it seem harmless. Sandler eventually gave in, stepping into a nearby bathroom. I didn't want a confrontation. I didn't want to be left alone in the woods with him angry. He changed. When he returned, Diddy was already in a robe, reclining on a bearskin rug in front of the fire. He looked at me like I was prey. He said, "Now we're equals. No layers, no lies." Then, Diddy told Adam to strip fully. He said, "Be raw, let go, no ego here." Adam refused, but Diddy didn't take no easily. He stood up, walked over, and tried to untie my robe. Sandler pushed him away and backed toward the door. I told him I was leaving. He said I'd regret it, that this was about trust. He said, "You don't walk out on someone who sees the real you." Adam left anyway. Back at the resort, he didn't speak to anyone. I felt exposed, violated, confused. I wasn't assaulted physically, but emotionally, I was shattered. Sandler paused, shaking his head. "I never wore that robe again, but I've never felt clean since." Adam Sandler paused on the stand, and for the first time, his voice broke. Not from fear, but from something deeper. Heartbreak. "I loved him," Adam confessed, eyes glossy. "Not like that, not romantically. But I loved him like a brother, like a mentor. I thought he had my back. I thought he saw something in me nobody else did. And maybe he did. But now I wonder if it was something he could use." The courtroom sat silent as Adam peeled back the layers of a friendship that had once brought him joy. In the early 2000s, Sandler said, Diddy was everywhere. And for a while, Adam was right beside him. They went to parties, premieres, even double-dated a few times. We'd freestyle jokes, talk about movies we wanted to make, ways we could blend hip-hop with comedy. It felt exciting, innovative, like we were building something together. But the shift came subtly, like poison in water. Adam described moments that, in hindsight, felt manipulative. Diddy would call at 2 a.m. asking for help, only to trap him in hours-long conversations about trust, loyalty, and secrets between men. He'd guilt Adam for spending time with other friends. He'd say things like, "They don't get you like I do," or "You think Sandler exists without Puff?" It was psychological warfare cloaked in friendship. "I started feeling like a possession," Adam said, "like I owed him something. For every opportunity, for every dinner he paid for every introduction he gave me to industry powerhouses, I felt like there was an invisible invoice." And yet, Adam stayed. Because that's what trauma does. It confuses. It complicates. And in Diddy's world, lines didn't blur. They vanished. He shared a moment that haunted him. New Year's Eve, 2006. They were in the Bahamas at a luxury villa. At midnight, everyone cheered and toasted. But Diddy pulled Adam aside, away from the party, and said, "This year, you belong to me." Adam laughed at the time, chalking it up to Diddy's usual grandstanding. But now, under oath, he saw the meaning clearly. It wasn't a joke. It was a declaration. Adam admitted he didn't want to believe what was happening. He rationalized. He minimized. "I didn't have bruises, so I told myself I wasn't a victim. I wasn't locked in a room, but I was imprisoned emotionally." That's still abuse. He said it took therapy to even use that word. Abuse. It took years to unlearn the toxic affection, to understand that Diddy's power wasn't just in fame or wealth, but in the way he made you feel like you were nothing without him. "I once called him the most charismatic person I'd ever met," Adam told the court. "Now I call him the most dangerous." The courtroom was still, but the silence spoke volumes. The man who made the world laugh was finally done pretending. And the betrayal that once hid behind jokes now stood exposed in full, chilling clarity. Adam Sandler leaned forward slightly in his chair, as if the weight of the next part of his testimony needed momentum to even say aloud. "There's something I've never told anyone," he began, his tone lower, darker. "Not my wife, not my agent, not even my therapist, not until this trial started." He recounted a night in 2007 when Diddy invited him over to his Bel Air estate for what he described as a creative review night. He said he wanted my thoughts on a new project, a comedy project. Said it might be our next big move. He made it sound like we were going to review footage together, brainstorm, laugh. Just two friends bouncing ideas. Adam paused. But that's not what it was. When he arrived, Diddy greeted him with a cigar and a glass of Hennessy. There were no assistants, no other creatives, no studio people, just them. The vibe felt off, but Adam didn't want to stir tension. He had this giant screen set up, and the first video he played looked like some kind of home footage. I assumed it was behind-the-scenes stuff. But when it started, I froze. What came on the screen was not a comedy pilot. It was grainy, dimly lit footage of what appeared to be another celebrity, naked, disoriented, being filmed without consent. Adam refused to name the person on tape. "That's not my story to tell," he said, "but what I saw shook me." He told Diddy to shut it off immediately, but instead of stopping, Diddy laughed. He said, "Come on, man, that's the industry. We all got tapes." Adam stood up to leave, but before he could make it to the door, Diddy blocked the hallway. "He wasn't threatening me physically," Adam clarified. "He didn't have to." He said, "What if I told you I had one of you?" The words hung heavy in the courtroom. I asked him what he meant. He said, "Back in Aspen, the robe, the camera was on." Adam felt his stomach turn. I hadn't even remembered the camera. I'd convinced myself he never hit record. But in that moment, I knew. He was keeping something on me. Insurance. Diddy eventually let him leave, but not before saying, "You're safe as long as you're loyal." That night, Adam sat in his car for 2 hours, unable to drive. I knew then that I wasn't a friend. I was leverage. He never spoke to Diddy again, but the fear never left. He started turning down interviews, avoided late-night appearances, and took fewer public roles. People thought I was just being selective, but the truth was, I was scared. I didn't know what he had. I didn't know what he'd do if I pushed back. He wiped his eyes and looked up. "I'm not scared anymore." Adam Sandler sat quietly for a moment before continuing, as if trying to find the strength to bring the invisible into the light. "People know me as the funny guy, the goofy voice, the Happy Gilmore guy," he said, cracking a weak smile that quickly faded. "But what they don't see are the nights I wake up in a sweat, the times I've cried in silence while my family slept, the things that stayed with me long after the laughter faded." He admitted that since 2008, he had suffered from vivid night terrors, episodes where he'd wake up screaming, sweating, heart pounding. And they always come back to him, he said, to Diddy. The dreams weren't straightforward. They were metaphors, warped memories. In one, he's on stage performing stand-up, but the audience is empty, and Diddy is standing alone in the back, shaking his head slowly. In another, he's trapped in a room of mirrors, and every reflection is him in that silk robe. "I started to think I was losing my mind," Adam confessed, "because who would believe that someone like me, Adam Sandler, was scared of someone like Diddy?" He said even his closest collaborators noticed a change. "I pulled back," I stopped trusting people. I started turning down gigs I would have loved. He revealed that during the filming of Uncut Gems, he nearly quit halfway through, not because of the script or the pressure, but because one of the locations reminded him of Diddy's lodge in Aspen. Same wood paneling, same smell of cologne in the air. I froze. I told the director I was sick, but the truth is, I couldn't breathe in that place. It wasn't until 2019 that Adam began therapy, after collapsing on set from what doctors called exhaustion. But in therapy, a different diagnosis came: PTSD. I didn't want to believe it. PTSD is for soldiers, right? For trauma survivors. I was just a comedian. But trauma doesn't care what you do for a living. He shared how hard it was to admit that what happened wasn't a weird moment or bad vibes, but psychological abuse. He didn't hit me, but he hit my mind, my dignity. When asked if he ever tried to go public before, Adam nodded. Twice. Once in 2010, I drafted a letter to my agency, told them I was worried about Diddy's behavior. They told me to drop it. Said I'd never work again if I went after someone that powerful. The second time was in 2021, during a podcast interview that was later edited before release. I'd mentioned a music mogul who once made me feel unsafe. That line never aired. He said it was like a ghost haunted every project he worked on. I'd hear his name in the news and flinch. I'd hear his voice in my head, telling me I was his. Adam turned to the jury. This trial, this courtroom, it's the first time I've felt like maybe I'm not crazy, that maybe someone finally believes me. And in that moment, for the first time in years, the funny man let the silence sit. He didn't need to break it with a joke. The truth was enough. Adam Sandler sat straighter now, the hesitance in his voice replaced by a quiet defiance. The courtroom, having followed him through betrayal and buried trauma, now leaned in as he prepared to recount the moment that finally broke the spell Diddy had cast over him for years. It was 2016, Adam said. We were both scheduled to appear at the same charity gala in LA, a children's hospital fundraiser. It was supposed to be about giving back, about healing, but he turned it into a power play. Adam described how, moments before going on stage to introduce a segment with young cancer survivors, Diddy pulled him aside backstage. He looked at me with that same cold charm I'd seen before, and he said, "Make me look good out there, Sandman. You owe me that." It was phrased like a joke, but the tone wasn't. I froze, Adam admitted. I wanted to run, but I went out there and gave the speech. I smiled for the cameras, but inside I was breaking, because I realized he still thought he owned me. After the event, Adam returned home and told his wife everything, every detail he'd suppressed for over a decade. She was horrified, he said, his voice shaking. Not just by what happened, but by how long I had carried it alone. That night, she said, you have to speak up. Even if no one listens, you have to get it out of you. That was the first night he slept soundly in years. Over the following months, Adam began to quietly gather evidence. He reviewed old emails, unearthed voicemails, and located footage from the 2007 Creative Review Night that Diddy had recorded on his own surveillance system. Footage Adam didn't know still existed until a private investigator located a cloud backup tied to an old account Diddy once bragged about having on lock. With his lawyer's help, Adam prepared a sealed affidavit and waited for the right moment. And then this trial happened, and I knew it was time. He told the courtroom he never sought revenge. This isn't about payback. It's about truth. I spent years convincing myself it wasn't that bad, that I was lucky compared to others. But trauma doesn't work like that. Silence doesn't heal it. Truth does. Adam's final revelation was deeply personal. He described visiting a children's hospital in 2022, and during a puppet show, one of the kids, sick, bald but smiling, asked him, "Why are you sad in your eyes?" Adam smiled weakly as he told the jury, "That's when I knew. If a child could see it in me, it was still there, still alive inside me. That shadow he left." He looked directly at Diddy for the first time all day. "You took my peace, you took my voice, but you didn't take my truth. And now, I'm giving it back to myself." A long silence followed, heavier than any before. Then the judge nodded, and Adam stepped down. Not as the Sandman, not as the movie star, but as a man who had finally reclaimed the part of himself that had lived too long in the dark. The courtroom sat in tense anticipation as Adam Sandler returned to the witness stand for a final round of questions. The prosecution, clearly aware of what was coming, asked softly, "Mr. Sandler, earlier you mentioned a recording, a tape. Are you prepared to describe what's on it?" Adam nodded, slowly but firmly. "Yes." He explained that after reconnecting with his former attorney in early 2022, they recovered a cloud account tied to one of Diddy's old home security systems. It had been inactive for years but never fully deleted. Inside the archive was surveillance footage, hundreds of hours worth, from Diddy's estate in Bel Air, including camera angles from private rooms. One folder, dated March 2007, was labeled Private Aspen Weekend. "It wasn't labeled with my name," Adam clarified, "but I remembered that weekend, and what I saw in the footage confirmed everything I feared." The courtroom watched as Adam described the tape. In it, he was seen entering a private spa room wearing a robe. A moment later, Diddy followed, holding a phone and a glass of wine. What started as casual conversation quickly became uncomfortable. He made a joke about how cleanliness is close to loyalty. Then he asked me to join him in the spa, Adam recalled. "I didn't know he was recording. I didn't know he was watching through the mirrors." He paused. There was no water in the tub, just bubbles and some kind of thick gel. Later, I realized it was baby oil. He told me to get in. I said no. He laughed and said, "What? You think you're too good now?" I didn't say anything. I left. But now I know. He recorded all of it. The footage, though never released publicly, was enough to make Adam fear for his reputation and safety. Weeks later, he received an unmarked envelope at his home. Inside was a USB drive. On it, a short clip from the tape, just enough to imply, just enough to threaten. Attached was a note. "Be careful what you say. We all have ghosts." Adam said it was the final betrayal. "I thought we were past it, that he'd moved on. But he still wanted to control me through fear." It was then that Adam reached out to other celebrities who had distanced themselves from Diddy. One unnamed former child star confirmed receiving similar threats. Cryptic messages, clips, reminders of nights they tried to forget. "We realized he had a whole system of blackmail," Adam said. "He didn't need to say anything. Just knowing that he had dirt on you kept you in line." Adam admitted that for years he avoided public confrontation because he believed the world would choose Diddy. He was too powerful, too connected. "I'm a clown to most people. A guy who sings in funny voices. Who would believe me over him?" But the trial changed everything. With each testimony, the silence cracked. The illusion of Diddy's untouchable legacy began to dissolve. "I'm not just speaking for me," Adam concluded. "I'm speaking for every person he's made feel small, for every laugh I faked to hide the fear, for every friend who walked away when I tried to tell them." The prosecutor asked one final question. "Do you feel safe now?" Adam stared at the defense table. "Number. But I feel heard. And that's a start." Adam Sandler's final words on the stand were not about pain. They were about responsibility. As the courtroom absorbed the full weight of his story, Adam looked out not just at the jury, but into the cameras, knowing the world was watching. "I'm not the first. I won't be the last. But I might be the loudest," he said, voice clear, steady. "And maybe that's what I was meant to do all along." He recalled a moment from 2005 when he was filming Click. Between takes, he'd asked a co-star, jokingly, "If you could fast-forward through any part of your life, which one would it be?" The actor laughed, but Adam didn't. "I thought about the nights with him, the silence, the shame. I wished I could skip them all." Now, nearly 2 decades later, he stood in court confronting the part he couldn't fast-forward through, but could finally rewind and explain. The defense tried to undercut his claims. They brought up Adam's career highs, his Netflix deals, his freedom to work. "Clearly, Mr. Sandler's career wasn't damaged," the defense attorney said smugly. Adam didn't flinch. "You think because I made people laugh, I wasn't broken inside? You think success cancels out trauma? That's the problem. People think fame is armor, but it's a costume, and I wore mine every day." Then he pulled out something unexpected, a handwritten note from 2004, written on the back of a 51st Dates script page. It read, "I wish I could disappear." "I wrote that in my trailer," Adam said, "right after a call from Diddy. He'd heard a rumor I told someone about Aspen, said if I didn't shut up, he'd pull the plug on my funny guy routine. I laughed it off on the phone. But then I wrote this. Because I didn't feel funny, I felt trapped." The judge allowed the note to be entered as evidence, a tangible reminder that trauma doesn't always leave bruises. It leaves echoes. Adam's closing statement was quiet, not dramatic, not performative, just honest. "I'm not angry anymore," he said. "I'm tired. I'm tired of pretending it didn't happen. I'm tired of pretending it didn't hurt. And I'm tired of pretending I'm okay when I'm not." He turned to the gallery. "If you've ever been scared to speak up, if you've ever felt like your pain didn't count, let this be proof that it does, that you do." The courtroom didn't erupt. It didn't need to. The silence was louder than any applause. As Adam stepped down, he wasn't the Happy Gilmore fans remembered. He wasn't Billy Madison. He was Adam Sandler, wounded, brave, and finally free. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. But Adam didn't stop to speak. He got into a black SUV with his wife and children and drove off without a word. For once, the comedian didn't have to say anything. The truth had spoken for him.